Hello everyone, this is Kevin Moore bringing you a video summary of the Broadside Bash. The Broadside Bash is a San Diego ran tournament. It is usually in the springtime, ran by a group of guys that called themselves the Pacific Marauders, Comp 1 Score. It's also ran by the store called At Ease Games here in San Diego. It's a local tournament for me. It's the 8th version. Unfortunately, this is my first time attending it. And unfortunately, it's just been so difficult. The timing that the tournament has, I usually have a lot of things going on in the springtime, and it makes it very difficult for me to actually attend this tournament. So this year I said, hey, no matter what, I'm going to this tournament regardless of what's going on in my life. And so I scheduled everything ahead of time, and sure enough, there was actually something that was conflicting, and we just had to change the time, or so that I could fulfill both responsibilities and obligations. And so anyhow, I'm glad I did so. It's a great tournament. It's ran by a great group of guys. I've gamed with these guys for years now, and I can't talk enough about them. So a little bit about the tournament. This tournament is a Swedish comp tournament. It comps. The low end of the comp score is 5, and they cap out the comps at 15. And at the end, they double your points for the battle score. They run a true Swedish comp style tournament, which means that they also give you the point difference on your comp score going into the battle, as in contrast to the West Coast GT that didn't do that. And then what I mean by that is, if I had a comp score of 15 and I played an opponent with a comp score of 10, I start the game with a 500 point advantage. And so the Swedish comp, or the West Coast GT didn't do that. They had some formula that the first 2 rounds they take into the comp into account, but I'm not sure how that worked, because my first game was against a very tough opponent who had a very low comp score. So I don't know how they used the comp there. In this particular case, the first 2 games that I played was against people with similar comps to my score, and so that did make a lot of sense to me, and I knew where I was going and how I was heading. So I kind of do like the way the Broadside Bash ran their tournament. They also ran this aside from their own scenarios, which are very difficult. They had the system that they called the Royal Flush. Essentially, it was 5 cards that all had special abilities that you could use once per game. And so that's why you were given 5 cards. So essentially it was, I believe, one was you get to dispel any spell automatically. You get to cast any spell as if it was irresistible force. You get to go first. You win the first turn. You get to negate the person's choice or card, and you automatically pass a leadership test. And so each one of them had a strategical advantage. Sometimes it was random, sometimes they played well. And what I found about these scenarios is like in the West Coast GT as well as the Broadside Bash, they were not very favorable to the dwarf. It's very hard for dwarves to compete. A lot of them have wizard, a lot of spell casting that you have to get off, which makes it difficult for the dwarves. A lot of them also have a lot of movement and deployment, and so that also is very difficult for the dwarves. And I'll talk about that during I'll talk about the scenarios when I actually post the battle reports. Now, speaking of the battle reports, first off, I'd like to apologize for bringing this video so late. I mentioned why it took me so long to post this video in my worst opponent ever. I also explained why I won't be posting the 5th game, and that's for similar reasons. But I do apologize now. I didn't post the first game. I kind of just with enthusiasm of going to the tournament, I forget to take pictures of the first game. So I'll talk a little bit now about that game, and also how I did on the tournament. So if you want to kind of get surprise or have that element of surprise for the other games that I report, stop listening now and just start listening to the rest of the videos later on. If you're interested as to why why it took me so long to create this battle report and why I'm not reporting the 5th game, listen to my worst opponent ever video that's posted shortly before this. Okay, with that said, let me go on to the tournament. The first game I played against so my overall record was 3-2. First game that I played against, I was absolutely crushed. It was a very difficult scenario. It was essentially a six grids, and you alternated turns, picking which grid you wanted to deploy, one unit at a time. And once all 6 grids have deployed, then you start the turn. And then after that, you could put your models in reserve, and they randomly get deployed. And so that alone is a very, very difficult scenario for an opponent, for a dwarf opponent player. On top of that, I played Donovan, who's a great guy. I mean, he's a local San Diego player. He runs GTs out of the at these games, and he's a great guy, but he's also a very good gamer. And so you have the situation, and he's running Dark Elves. So you have an army that this is designed for. The scenario is perfect for this army, which is Dark Elves. They have the movement, they have the ability to adjust. On top of that, you have a great player, and you have the scenario that's probably the worst scenario that any dwarf could have, which is to scatter our deployments across the table. With our movement, we're just not going to be able to get there on time, and it's randomly deployed, so we don't get to pick where we put them, even on reserves. And so, anyhow, suffice to say, I get hammered. I lose 20-0 on this game, but Donovan does it with such grace and such class that I end up giving him my favorite opponent ever. So that's an art, to absolutely smash your opponent, and then have the opponent like you so much that he's giving you the best opponent ever, or best opponent. He played a tactful game. Never argued about anything. We were always very cordial to each other. The game was very fluid, and there was a great couple of tactical moves that he did that I actually respected. And so I liked the game from a real level to both an enjoyment level. So anyhow, that said, that was the first game. I go on and win my next 3 games, 20-0. The last game, I really just couldn't get into it, and so I really didn't play a well game, and I explained the reasons why. So I lose that game. I even forget, though, that I started with the 500 point comp. I might have even tied or won the game. I don't know. My head isn't into it, so I didn't even care. I just gave him the win, and I walked away. I think now that it probably was a tie, but anyhow, the record stands as 3-2. With 3 wins, 2 losses. All right, so that's it for now, and stay tuned for the follow-on battle reports. Thank you for listening. Kevin Moore signing out.